Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of the 2015 National Defense Authorization Agreement this House will consider later this week. I am very proud to represent Fort Hood, the largest military base in the world. On November 5th, 2009, 5 years ago, our community suffered an unthinkable tragedy when a radicalized Islamic extremist named Nadal Hassan opened fire on Fort Hood and fatally shot 15 men and women and one unborn child. More than 30 others were wounded that day. Hassan's radicalization was well known to the FBI and the DOD as early as 2005. Hassan plotted with the known terrorist Anwar al-Awlaki, and he expressed his radical views to his classmates. This administration dismissed these concerns in the names of political correctness. 5 years ago, the president promised to take care of the victims of this shooting, but shortly thereafter, he turned his back on them and declared the attack to be workforce violence. These victims and their families are still waiting for justice. Our communities have suffered long enough in the name of political correctness. I'm very proud that my colleagues in the House and Senator Cornyn and Senator Cruz have not dropped the ball. We have stood for Fort Hood community and the victims of this terrorist act, even as the president failed to act. The House and Senate have agreed on this legislation that they will allow these heroes to receive the Purple Hearts and make them eligible for the benefits they deserve. The victims and their families will soon receive justice and closure. I'm proud to support this legislation, and I'd like to yield the remainder of my time to my strong partner in this effort, Roger Williams of Texas.
I want to thank my colleague, Congressman John Carter, for his words, but more importantly, for the many years of hard work he has put forth to care for the soldiers at Fort Hood. Mr. Speaker, the 2009 terrorist attack at Fort Hood was an unthinkable tragedy. At that time, it was the only story the news reported for days. Who was this murderer? Why did he do it? Could there be more like him? As other military installations at increased risk of this type of attack too? How did we not see this coming? After the attacks on September 11th, we asked these same questions. That's the difference between workplace violence and a terrorist attack. The Fort Hood shooter was not a disgruntled employee who took his anger out on his colleagues. He was a hate-filled, vengeful Islamic extremist who intentionally planned the horrendous terrorist attack and carried it out with no remorse. Islamic extremists like him want us to fear them every single day. They want to hit us where it hurts by taking innocent American lives and waging war on our military members. They have zero regard for our human life, not even their own. That's why our response to terrorist attacks on American soil must be consistently tough, precise, and without hesitation. At the memorial service honoring the lives of 13 Americans and one unborn, President Obama pledged to take care of those who were injured and the families of those who killed. Yet 5 years later, he has completely neglected them. Because President Obama designated the attack workplace violence, these men and women are not eligible to receive the benefits, treatment, compensation that combat troops killed and injured in combat zones receive. The negligence has caused many injured victims to have to pay their own out-of-pocket expenses for treatment, costing some hundreds of thousands of dollars. One victim was pulled off active duty, and her paycheck went from $1,400 a month to $200 a month and lost her military health insurance. Others scrape by on disability payments, but still have to pay the remainder of their medical bills from their own pocket. My friend Sergeant Alonzo Lunsford was shot 7 times, but was turned away when he tried to check into an Army PTSD clinic due to the fact that he was not injured in combat. This is not my definition of taking care of our nation's heroes. However, the National Defense Authorization Act gives the Obama administration yet another opportunity to honor his pledge to provide for these men and women who were victims of terrorism. This bicameral, bipartisan bill provides authorization for awarding the Purple Heart to members of the armed forces killed or wounded in a domestic attack inspired by a foreign terrorist organization. This is a common-sense solution that should have happened immediately following the attack at Fort Hood. I want to thank Chairman McKeon and again Congressman Carter for their tireless work on behalf of our troops and for many of my Texas colleagues who have joined the fight to restore justice. Just as we united as a country after these senseless attacks, let's once again unite as Americans to fight for the truth, honor our fallen, and demand justice for the victims of terrorism. In God we trust. I yield back.
The gentleman's time has expired. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Washington, Mr. McDermott, for 5 minutes.